Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News.
Our next guest is a man who swept us all off our feet with his character as Segun Kadiri in popular 90s soap opera Checkmate. The ace actor has since acted in roles that have taken the Nigerian movie industry to the world and even created his own series, Mr. X Family Show. Richard Mofe Damijo is joining this morning to discuss the evolution of Nollywood, but before then, in the spirit of Throwback Thursday, let's throw back to an old episode of him in Checkmate.
Good. I liked it very much, Okosum. So the fans just started disappearing. I like that. I like it very, very much.
It's risky business, though. You know, I'm already in trouble after the other deal broke open.
Okosum, that is your bloody business. Do you understand what I'm saying? I pay you good money. All I want to see is Anne Hartrop on her knees, begging me.
I think for you it must be nostalgic.
Yeah.
But Ojy is so excited to see you. Before we came to the...
I haven't seen her since
like 7, 8 years.
I must warn you, she's not the only one. All the ladies, it was, oh, RMD is coming. RMD is coming. RMD is coming. How do you do it?
It's the power of television. very soon it will be Reuben is coming.
I know. But is it okay I compliment him? Can I do that?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Please go ahead. You've been doing so off camera.
Do you ever age?
Well, I do. I'm 57 now, so time was when I wasn't. So
well,
yes,
you look great, really.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've received multiple awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Africa Movie Magic Award. What is that? It's the Africa Movie Academy Awards, correct? Yes. And now you've been nominated for Best Actor for the movie Crossroads.
Yes.
Yes. How does that, so many years down the line and you're still receiving all of these awards, how does that make you feel?
Humbled, actually.
Yes.
I love what I do, and I pay attention to it. I think I get a high from the audience when they appreciate what you do. And so every time I get an opportunity to do any kind of work on television or on stage before an audience, I take it to heart. That way your audience never forgets, your attention to details. So for me, it's a commitment that I have made to myself that if I ever get an opportunity to stand in front of an audience or for a film or a television show, I'll do my very best.
But how will you describe yourself as an actor? I mean, in school, we studied the same subject, you and I.
Yes. From
Stanislavski to Arto to Grotowski, from method acting to poor theater and all of that. Where will you place yourself?
I'm working, I have a new theory. I have a personal theory. Okay. If I was to be described by critics from the outside, for instance, they will call it the method.
Stanislavski.
Yes. But for me, what I work on is what I call the sincerity acting. I act from the guts. And so it is the ability to be sincere in whatever it is whatever role you find yourself, and find the connection. And once you connect with an audience, any audience, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of two, if they can see the sincerity inside of you, then, it's a connection that is made for life.
In method acting, we were taught that that's about emotional memory. You mean you prioritize emotional memory?
That's it, because what it is what does anybody want from another person? Is to find a thread that joins them together. And the only way that thread can be joined is when I can see everything about you. And I can trust any move you make because I can see through your emotions, I can see through everything. So if I'm playing a role and I have been able to encompass that role in all its entirety and you can see it, then there is no surprise.
You started with the stage, 1982 to date. But you seem to have 83.
Post-graduation, yes.
Yeah, but you seem to have abandoned the stage.
Not in the real sense of the word.
I mentioned 82 because we met in 82, and you were in NUTAF, yes. And you were acting,
yes.
You know, but you became maybe professional in 83.
Yes.
But why did you abandon the stage?
I didn't abandon the stage. In fact, it will surprise you to know that even for somebody like me and Joker Jacobs, for instance, we were supposed to do a stage show this October, a two-man play, but we haven't been able to raise the money. Stage is such a thing that you must, you need money to do stage because you're going to have to stop every other thing. You have to pay for the space, you have to pay for rehearsal space, you have to get a director, you have to get stage manager and all of that. It takes money and time to put all of that together.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that the stage is virtually dead because there's no more money in Nollywood.
No.
So you prefer to make more money rather than go through the
You don't even make... If I were to be looking for money, I won't be an actor. I was in government for 8 years. I would rather stay there and slug it out. It's a labor of love. I am driven more by the love for what I do than looking for money. I don't think that anybody looking for money will go and act.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah, you know what?
Yes.
Saying that, I just saw the trailer, Merry Men. You were with veteran actors, Ramsey Noah, Ireti Doyle. How does that juxtapose with acting with those types of people and acting with, like, let's say, a brand new face?
Those ones are very junior to him.
Oh, well,
yes.
If I must say so.
They're the generation below.
They
you got them veterans, they're very junior to him.
In comparison, though, who would you...
Newer faces.
To newer faces.
It's always good to have a healthy combination. Yes. Of old, new, you know, so that way there is a constant oiling of the machine, you know. You don't want a situation where 5-10 years from now you don't have a new crop of actors. So it's always good to have new crop of actors. I did a show, I just created a TV series, and I'm working with virtually unknown actors, apart from a few veterans that I brought in, or a few known actors that I brought in. Every other member of cast is virtually new. And that's how you create, and that's how you give opportunities to other people to come on in as well.
You've been moving from one area of engagement to the other. Stage, theater, journalism, law, or governance. Where is your comfort zone?
My comfort zone is acting, of course. It's theater. But like you know, we are sort of restless. And we grew up in the 80s, so to speak, and at that time, for some reason, we were pressured into thinking that studying theater was for lazy people. So at some point in my life, in my head, I needed to always prove that, you know, it is a choice I have made. It is not out of incompetence or out of not being brilliant enough to handle anything else. I remember in Uniben then I used to just, for the heck of it, go to other departments to take elective courses and just make A's and walk away, so that, you know, there's no doubt as to what I could do. Law for me was the Uroboman thing in my blood. You know, every Uroboman is supposed to be a lawyer.
To be a polygamist.
And you know, that is legit.
I'm not stereotyping, though.
That is legit. You know, so law came as the most natural thing to do, and also it was at a time in my life that I needed something that was strong, to distract me from what I was going through at the time, and so law was just a natural escape for me. Journalism, of course, I consider it part and parcel of being in the arts. You were in National Concord,
yes, writing columns and all of that. But why don't you write anymore?
Actually, my former editor, Mike Awoifa,
yes,
got me to
still writing.
Yes, got me to
why don't you
I
write?
think I will start writing again. So he got me writing in The Sun for a while, and then I stopped.
The writing doesn't bring money.
It is never about money. You know that. If it's money, you won't do your columns, your weekly columns.
Well, let's talk about budgeting, right? You just mentioned that you had a stage play that you were doing and there was no money. There's no money. Where do you see Nollywood in the global market right now? You know, one of your co-actors, Genevieve Anaji, yes, up for her. Netflix just purchased her Lionheart movie. And she, in an interview, said that she had to self-fund the movie. in terms of quality, it takes a lot of money to put into a film. Where do you see that being fixed here in Nigeria?
Access to fund,
yes.
It's a major problem, you know, but thank goodness there is some fund available. It depends on how well you have your papers done and your work done to access the fund. There's a BOI fund for movie makers. You can get anything from 30 million and above.
30 million naira.
Naira and above to do that. But, I mean, in today's filmmaking world, not that will, you know, get the work done totally, but at least it will get you a leg, get a leg in. So access to fund is a major problem. Most of us self-fund because it is probably the easiest way to do or easiest way to go. If you go to the banks, the things that you need to bring apart from your grandmother's leg or your grandfather's ear that you need to provide as collateral, there's just so much you can contend, and we haven't been able to link the creative strides in the creative industry. We haven't been able to connect with corporate Nigeria, so that at every point in time you have entrepreneurs who will let you do the creative work and they take on the finances. You know, BOI is barely scratching the surface of the number of producers and directors that want to do, you know, things.
But how can you actors be involved in trying to make sure that there is adequate funding? Because apparently that's all we lack. Because we have the stories, we have everything.
Outside of doing what we do well, you know, and hope that it will attract investors to come in and invest in it. There's hardly anything that we can do. We are using our personal funds already. Some of us are already businessmen. We're turning into businessmen just so that we can go get money from other sources to fund, you know, our passion, as it were. My life has been one of constantly going foreign into law, foreign into business to try and get funding to come back to, you know, my passion and fund.
I'm surprised that this is the case because
yes, it is,
in the past, you and your good friend, God bless his soul, Funsho Alabi,
yes.
You did a lot, although it was on the stage, and you got a lot of funding support from the private sector. And we also had, you know, theater events on an annual basis supported by banks.
Yes.
How did all that disappear?
Right.
What went wrong?
The Citibank days or NIB days.
Yes.
The support that Funsho Alabi and I had was mainly from the USIS at the time.
Okay. Yes.
You know, the Goethe Institute also did a lot of support to other actors and all that. So that was the time when Nigeria, you know, experienced a kind of resurgence on stage and in the artistic world in general. But today, the economy is stifling. I mean, we cannot pretend, play the ostrich and say things are okay. I mean, people are downsizing, the economy is shrinking a bit, and so it is affecting every aspect of corporate life. So ordinarily, companies who would have loved to do corporate social their CSR with theater or things like that are cutting down and probably looking at other things that are probably not as fanciful as theater. And so outside of the work, the amazing work that is happening in terror culture, you know, Bolade Austin Peters is doing, yes. There's very little or nothing happening. The states can no longer, you don't see the vibrancy that you're supposed to see from a Lagos State Arts and Council, for instance, anymore. So there's a lot of, you know, depletion in terms of money that is available for the arts.
Well, we talked earlier on about the support from the BOI. I mean, under President Jonathan, there was this fund created for Nollywod, for the creative industry. And the Buhari's administration, they've sustained it. Recently, they even put in more money into that sector because they value, they say they value the creative industry. Do you see some kind of favoritism in terms of disbursement?
I don't think so. I think the process is just a very difficult process.
How difficult?
I haven't tried to personally, you know, understand it, but I know that if you get a consultant, it's easier to get the consultant to put all the papers together, because you have to go through certain things to get the loan. And so when you have, when the process is a bit tedious, then people tend to shy away from it. And that's why I said it barely scratches the surface. It is something to talk about. It is something to look at, because of a truth, it has sustained the cinema-going culture. This year, we can say that the quality of films haven't been as good as what we had last year, because attendance has dropped a bit. But it has helped the industry. You cannot, I won't in all good conscience sit here and say, oh, the BOI funding hasn't helped. It has helped tremendously, but just imagine if we can have some more. I am part of a board of a private initiative that, was able to get some money together, but we were only able to put about 600 million together, and people are still trying to access that fund privately. So we need to have a lot more funding set up, have creative people have access to these funds. What you have now, private individuals who are squeezing creativity at, they're milking every drop they can get from people. Because, for instance, I can say tomorrow that I have 3 million for a movie. Now, producers will come and access that money and try and work within that fund. But what you find is made-for-television movies that will not get you to where you really want to get to. I mean, what Genevieve has done is phenomenal, and we are hoping that will shine a light on some of the processes we are going through now to also access it. Yes.
And you were part of the process when we were arguing for a proper cultural policy for Nigeria. At a point, we moved from cultural policy to endowment fund for the arts.
Yes.
What do you think is really wrong? Is it that the politicians don't understand the strategic value of culture?
It is clear they don't. Let me give you an instance of how what a minister goes through, for instance, in a cabinet.
Okay.
So there is a cabinet meeting, and maybe the Minister for Works does his presentation, and the Minister for Health does his own presentation and all of that. And then it comes to the turn of the Minister for Culture and Tourism. What does he say? What does he do? In terms of priorities of the people, do you think a festival in Abuja or making sure that there are documentaries that can be done all over the years, do you think that producing the Nigerian yearbook is something that the ministers that are seated on that table want to hear about? We are like the orphan child of, of a family. Now, what used to happen is that the arts is kept and sustained in the formal system by the palace, so to say, by the monarch, by the kings. So carvers, dancers, and all of that have a way of congregating around, royalty, and so there are festivals designated and all that. Today, our modern-day palaces are the state houses or Aso Rock. What kind of preeminence or what kind of attention are they giving to our cultural values? Yes. They don't. Anyway, and that is where we are.
Well, you've criticized the political side of it, the governance side of it. We still have wanted to ask you a question. I mean, because you left practice, you went into government. You also had a portfolio. It will be interesting to know what you did there. You were in Delta State. So what was that experience like?
It was an amazing experience. I mean, you don't get experiences like that, cheaply. I enjoyed every moment of it. It was very challenging. What I came away with is that in governance, you can only do, the much that you can do. When you find yourself in certain situations, you do your bit, and you will be more impactful if the buck stops on your table. And it's no surprise that most people who want to contribute to, who desire change in the way they really want it, want to aspire to the highest office. Because that is really where you can take the blame or the credit for whatever happens.
What do you make of the political atmosphere here in Nigeria ahead of the 2019 elections?
I speak purely as a Nigerian, yes, and from a particular side of the country as well. I'm from the South, and so I think collectively we are all aggrieved. I'm even more aggrieved by the fact that, you know, there is no talk of restructuring. Let me put it this way. I was born in 1961, and I've been a Midwesterner, I've been a Bendelite, and I've been a Delta. If there is any section of this country that should even be more agitated about restructuring, it should be people from that side, Midwest.
I agree with you.
Part of the regions, part of the original regions of this country, when every other region has been split into whatever numbers, we have only been split into what? 2. I mean, that is the height of injustice. You know, so if you ask me how I feel about, you know, I think that restructuring should be, you know, part of the front burners of, you know, of the government right now. And it must not just be geographical, but fiscal. You know, and that is when people have a right to start to determine how their units can be governed or should be governed. And they should take responsibility for the governance of their unit. Well,
thank you very much. I mean, I congratulate you on your achievement, yes, over almost 3 decades.
Thank you.
You know, and the manner in which you continue to inspire the younger people, particularly with your multi-sided personality and polyvalent talent. I'm sure we'll invite you again.
Yes, we have a lot
to
more
the morning
to ask
show.
You.
To
I wish you success in the upcoming AMA Awards. I hope you get to win. Thank you, Richard.
Yes,
well, that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching. From our entire team here in Lagos, enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.